do apologize for being, press your buttons, don't forget to press your buttons, I just pressed my button, thank you. I do apologize for being a minute late here. We're going to go ahead and start. Welcome to the March 6, 2024 Agenda Review Meeting. Thank you, board members, for being present and ready to meet. We do seem to have one missing, but he may just be running a minute late. Huge shout out to all the New Hanover County School board candidates. Congratulations to those who ran and all the ones who ran. I see one present right here. And also those who came out well. So it's a difficult job, and I wish you all the very best. So, thank you. At this point, Ms. Bowie, would you please call the roll? Okay. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Pete Wildeboer.
Present.
Melissa Mason.
Here.
Josie Barnhart.
Here.
Pat Bradford.
I am here.
Stephanie Craybill.
Here.
Hugh McManus.
On his way. Here.
And Stephanie Walker.
Here.
All right. Thank you all for being here. At this point, we will have our invocation.
My name is Christian Rutherford, and I am the youth pastor at Harbor United Methodist Church, as well as one of the pastors of Surf Church here in Wilmington. Let us pray. Jesus, we thank you so much for this day and this opportunity for us to gather together in this space. We ask that you would give us the wisdom and the discernment that we need to make critical decisions that are going to impact the lives of our children and our youth in this city. Keep our hearts open and our minds open to being receptive. Give us grace where we need to be given grace, and just allow this meeting to move with fluidity and at peace. Lord, we just love you. We thank you for everything that you're doing and the blessings that you have bestowed upon us. Amen.
Ms. Barnhart, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this point, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda, today's agenda.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion on that? Ma'am?
I would like to make a motion, amend the motion to add Gifted Advisory Council and EC Committee to the committee reports.
Okay, we have a motion. I'll second that. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? That passes 6-0. We have a motion now in front of us to approve the amended agenda. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Passes 6-0. Carrying on, we will go through the proposed agenda items as we have in the past. If there is a question or something that we would like to discuss or pull off, please stop me at that point and we will stop and talk about it. All right, starting again, opening, call to order, roll call, approval of the agenda, invocation, presentation of colors, national anthem, pledge of allegiance, approval of the minutes, recognitions, 10 minutes, yes ma'am?
Oh, that's it. Sorry, you just asked my question. The question I was going to ask, because I didn't see the 10 minutes there.
Yeah. And is 10 minutes going to be okay for that, Dr. Barnes? Okay, 10 minutes is good. Thank you, Ms. Graybill, again, for keeping up with our time. I do appreciate that. So student voice, 5 minutes. Teacher voice, 5 minutes. Superintendent report.
Can I ask a question on the
You may.
teacher? Do you know who the teacher voice is going to be this time?
It is going to be, they're representing Gregory International School. Amy Gavin.
Maybe Gavin. Okay. Very good. Looking forward to that. Board chairperson's report, 5 minutes. Call the audience. We've allotted 60 minutes for that. Consensus items. Again, is there anything we want to talk about? Please pull it off. Ms. Craybill.
Okay, so in letter B, the coastline therapy contract change order, is this something that we have done in-house before and we're now just contracting out?
There she is. You're over there
I
now.
didn't see you way down there.
Up way down here. This is an increase in a contract that we have for speech language therapy
Right.
services, and we were already contracting with the group. This is a change order to increase the amount of hours that we need based on vacancies, because we can't get speech language pathology substitutes. We have to contract for subs in.
Yeah, and I guess that's where my question was going. And then, so is this, with, and as we're evaluating where we, what positions we're going to keep or not keep, would this be one of those ones that's affected by ESSER dollars? Like, will we be losing any spots because of ESSER dollars on this one, that we would have to do more contracting next year?
No, the amount of speech language therapy that we have budgeted in is based on how much service is in the IEPs
Gotcha.
that have been created by the schools. So we will initially attempt to hire all of our speech language therapists. In the event that we have vacancies or then we have increased need and we haven't been able to hire yet, we would contract. So it really just, it closes the gap
Okay.
of the services we're not able to provide immediately.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
Bradford?
I actually have two, but that was on my list this morning. You know, looking at it, it's right at $400,000, and we're looking at budget crunching. And I just want to make sure that I'm reading it right. It started at $183,000. It increased with 3 change orders to get to $391,920. Rather than spend that money, if we're cutting, you know, if it comes to our spot to cut teachers, you know, I'm going to have to weigh that out. And so I'd rather almost hold this until we know what we're doing, because if we come into a budget crunch to where we have to cut teachers or we have to cut an outside contracted service, I'm going to want to go with the teachers. So I was thinking we could pull it and wait.
Oh,
So these are services that are already obligated by students' IEPs, which is regulated by federal requirement. So this is special education service delivery, which is has a higher standard than just general instruction. So these services have increased when, again, we've had a vacancy. So if we have a speech language pathology vacancy that we can't fill, we can't wait and hope to fill it with if we don't have candidates. We are obligated to go ahead and provide the service because otherwise it's a violation of federal law.
So are you saying then this doesn't kick in unless we don't have someone in-house that can provide the service?
Yes.
All right, I understand that then. Thank you. I have one more.
Okay, go ahead. Take your one.
Here we go. G. The MOU partnership articulation agreement between the school and Pittsburgh Community College. I'd like to hold that. Over the last 5 or 6 days, I've been out in the public a lot, and I've heard some conversation, and things came to my attention. I think we need to take a deeper look at that MOU and with our partnership with Pittsburgh Community College on that. And I believe, so I'm going to pull that one and hold it.
So, and you hold it until, like, delayed a month, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Ms. Faison, or Dr. Faison, you-
I just want to say, we were required to have this by the state, and actually, we've been working on it since November, and our requirement date was December. And I have informed them that we're working on it, and it will be coming. So if there's something that we can address so we can get it and turn it in. And because, like I said, the date was actually December, but because if you recall, we did not have an agreement before. And so we've been working on this since November. And if there's any questions, I would love to answer them. Julie, Dawn, and myself have been working with CFCC.
Okay, like I said, I am in the hearsay, mode, and I don't have any facts, but I understood something to the effect of that career coaches and liaisons would no longer have access to Power School, and I want to know about that. And then there was something else about why did your board vote to take dual enrollment students that have a letter grade of C, put them on probation so they can't have dual enrollment classes? So I think it's something we need to get to the bottom of in a bigger meeting than this, and maybe bring some of them so we can hear it, rather than do it, when we have 5 minutes allotted for one item.
I can address that for you. If you go to page 24 of the MOU.
I don't have it.
Okay, so what we have actually done is we have students who, when they get a C, they will be counseled to make sure that they can continue with the program. We're not saying, and the language actually says, any student who has earned a grade of a C or lower will receive academic advisement from their school counselor using a decision-making matrix to determine future dual enrollment participation. If you recall, we had a number of students who were failing, and we want to address that, but we're not stopping students. We need to make sure that they're the right students to go to CFCC.
So if they have a C is completely different than if they're failing. And did we pass a policy? Did we talk about this and I don't remember it?
Well, we said we were going to put something in our MOU, and we actually talked about this actual language right here that we put in. So the language that we talked about that we would put in the MOU is the language that we put in. We didn't pass a policy. We don't have a policy, but we said we would put this language in our MOU to address that because of the number of students that we had who were not being successful. So this does not stop students from going, but it does put a safety net in place for them because it is a college level course, and we need to make sure that if our students are doing a C, that they can handle the course and be successful. And there were times when we talk about our CCC, our college and career pathways, if you're talking about welding and things like that, this is why this is a decision with the student and their counselor, but we're not stopping them.
Can I?
You want to add anything?
Question before, which is the Power School. My understanding is that Power School. Let me finish my question, then I'll go to
Okay,
Dawn.
sorry.
But because we actually at this point allow Cape Fear Community College to have WEC. They have the ability to have Power School. They have Power School access in other areas, and it's my understanding that they've had access to Power School, and now they don't have it anymore. So we're going to a counselor that we may have less of, which I hope we don't, but we may end up having less counselors. And saying, hey, can you please give me a transcript? And we don't even know any kind of turnaround time on that. So I kind of do agree with Bradford that we may need to look at this a little bit closer before we're already late. So I mean, I understand we're supposed to be done by December, but we're already late on the situation. So an extra month in getting all these pieces worked out to make sure that Cape Fear Community College, because I'm pretty sure that they and also Senator Lee are not saying that we're 100% behind this. I think maybe having that discussion would be better than to rush through that. Let's get it rubber stamped next week.
I made a motion to pull it.
But it's not seconded.
Yeah, I can address the Power School issue, if that's
Go ahead.
okay. So we are in the process of, reviewing all of our contract accounts, which are your liaisons, your SRO officers, your nurses, the communities and schools staff, anybody who's not an employee, but we may contract with them to come work for us and see the access that they have to our student personal information, PII information, and when we were looking at what they had, in order for them to, the access that they had to have in order to do transcripts, also gives them access to the student demographics, which contains whether there's alerts, whether it's a medical alert or whether it is an alert because there's a family situation. And, so you have HIPAA violations there with the medical alert, and then you've got other, confidentiality issues, with the other alerts that are there when it deals with custody issues and something with the parents. The career counselors deal with a small subpopulation of the students at that school, yet they would have access to all that information for every student at that school. Because you can't just give them access, you have to give them access, you can't just give them access to just 11th and 12th graders. We have to give them access to all of Hoggard, all of New Hanover. So we give them access to their whole school. You can't just give it by grade level.
You wouldn't be able to, just from
Go
what I
ahead.
know about Power School, you couldn't set up a class within the
No.
school?
Classes are set up based on the master schedule, which, there is definitely rules and laws behind doing that, and when you schedule kids and all that, so you just can't schedule a class. When I did speak with them, when I pulled this from there, and we had a conversation, and I told her that I will still have a conversation, we'll bring people to the table, we'll talk about, the issues, and see if we can come up with a resolution that the liaisons still can get their job done, because it's not just the counselors who can print this stuff, your data managers and your registrars can print that information as well. So, and not all of them actually go in. I mean, I know between WEX and CTEC, one of those doesn't even log into the system. She actually goes to the data manager and gets the information.
Well, in my conversation with Senator Lee, he was very concerned because of the fact that, we're piloting this program here in New Hanover County. He'd like to spread it out everywhere else, and he feels like if they can't get the data that they need, that they may not. So I'll second your motion just because at this point I think we do need to have further discussion. If I'm hearing from a state senator and also from Cape Fear that there's a concern, I think we have a first and second. Yes, ma'am.
So I think Senator Lee may be confused because this is a program that we have been doing for many years, career readiness, career and promise, help me, career and college promise, sorry. So I think that there may be some confusion about the programs. And so I'm not certain that we want to put all of our eggs in the basket of our state senator on understanding what our program is when we're hearing the explanations right now. I mean, I'm not that I don't value his opinion, but I'm not certain he understands what program this isn't a pilot program. Am I correct, Dr. Faust? This is not a pilot program. This has been going on. Our kids were able to access this.
Okay.
So that's how long it's been there.
Okay.
It's being tweaked
All right.
in there. So,
Okay.
but I have some other questions before we
ahead.
vote to do that. So just looking at, it's in the second paragraph, and this is just like a typo kind of thing. And I'm wondering if I'm just not reading it. It's the second paragraph where we we have deemed down there 2 times. I have second paragraph, but it didn't say what page. What a dummy.
Can we jump, let someone else speak?
All right, well, I'll skip that one, I'll come back, 'cause I do have more questions, so I don't want to lose my turn. When we're talking about fees, students are responsible for some of their own fees. Do we cover if a student is unable to make those fees so that we make sure that we don't unintentionally exclude students that might be ready to to be in this program, but they can't afford like the books, or they can't afford the stethoscope, or they can't afford whatever? Do we have anything like that? No? Okay. And then the grading scales. I was looking at the grading scales, and I know that has been a little bit of a problem.
That's been changed.
Well, you can see both of them. That's what I was just wanting to ask the question. So that's on page, I thought it was the last page. They changed the grading scale. So is there, oh, it's in the.
Page 11.
Sorry, thank you, I couldn't find it. One of my concerns was they only give letter grades. They don't give number grades, and we give number grades. So if you look at both of the high school, the CFC grade to high school conversion, we have, their A is a 92, our grade of an A is a 95. I didn't think that was the case anymore. I thought we was like 90. But even if you look down in the fall 2024, when it talks about, their A is 90 to 100, and our A is a 95. I thought our A was also 90 to 100. This is on page 11, yeah.
So in working with them, because we're on a 10-point grading scale and they're not, what they've been doing is choosing basically the middle score for A, B, C, and that's what we put then on the report card for ours. It's the practice that's been going on for the last, I don't know how many years, but starting next year, it'll be 10-point on both sides.
Well, that's what
Yes.
I was having a hard time comparing the two, and that's what I thought we had talked about when you brought this to us a while ago, that we're getting closer to being the same. Okay.
They made the change.
Okay.
'Cause they made the change, yes.
And then, is there a minimum number of students? Let's just say that CFCC has a class on our campus, and is there a minimum number of students that we have to have in the class for it to go? It really doesn't matter to us because it's not, yeah.
I don't believe so. They work directly with the schools when they do those classes, and so if the school has the room and the space, then they work it out with them.
I guess my question really is, if we start at 10 in a class, and then we lose students, and so now we're down to 6 in a class, are they going to continue teaching the class, or will they continue to teach if we drop students, and not because we've dropped them, because they've dropped them?
Yes, they have been continuing to teach.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Barnhart?
Mr. Chair, I have a few, but since we're talking about G, I'll express that first. I want to make sure, what is the process that we have in place, specifically dealing with eligibility? So when a student does fail and then they're no longer eligible to play sports, the notification process, because it's my understanding, please correct me if I'm wrong in this, that our counselors don't have access to the CFCC notification process. And I see that as something that we need to be proactive on our part when students are signing up for CFCC, and it could potentially make them ineligible for sports. A process that's in place, including recovery, and I have this down for the curriculum guide. That's another thing that we're approving here is, do we have that procedure, kind of expectation in place district-wide, so it's not up to the school by school as far as a recovery process goes, and that a very clear process outlined so that it's not we're picking and choosing what athlete we want to participate with. Does that make sense?
Clarify. So
Yeah.
the reason why we were wanting to put all this in writing is because of that.
Yeah.
We've had several students who became ineligible because the school does not have access to anything at CFCC.
Right.
They have to have the parent sit beside them. We can't call, we can't get into their power school. We cannot look and see if a child is failing. And so we put guardrails in for our students to make sure that, one, students knew that, hey, you have a C in this or you have a D in this class, and when you take a college course, that starts your GPA for college immediately. So if you only take one class, you fail it, you start off with a 0.0 GPA, which could then interrupt your aid that you have at the colleges. But no, there's nothing in place that this current moment. That's why we have those appeals that are
Well,
coming forth.
that's where my concern is lying here. So in this MOU, this write-up, will our counselor have access to the CFCC students' grades that are going so that there can be some flag notification that they say, hey, it's been 2 months, you're failing, and that triggers us to step in?
So our counselors will not have access, but with this, what we've done is we've worked with them because the liaisons do have access. So like if you look on page 13 at the top, the last bullet, they're going to be monitoring grades weekly and notifying counselors and students when they're in jeopardy or 68%. That is one of the main reasons that we put this in place. is because there is no way for us to know if our students are not being successful. So we have to lean on the liaison, so we put some concretes in place with CFCC, as well as, and we didn't put this in the MOU because it's a practice that we just decided as a district we would start. We're actually sending out communication to parents now. Hey, your kid needs to drop a class if they're, this is the last day to drop a class, last day to add a class. We're trying to do everything from our side to make sure our students have what they need to be successful and not start their GPA in a negative way.
Well, and I'm wondering if that, and that might be a procedure on our end, right? So if the liaison that is employed through CFCC is communicating with their counselors, I like that. I like that I'm hearing parent communication. Can the athletic director also be included with that? Because I think that is another step in this bubble.
So what our athletic directors access the same information in, in Power School to be able to see eligibility. So our athletic directors are not able to, well, let me back up. Cape Fear Community College assumes that all of their students are adults. Mm-hmm. We do not assume our students are adults because they're not. Right. And so Cape Fear Community College does not give us any access to monitor like we need to monitor our students who are not adult students. They're academically capable of taking coursework, but they need support, like Dr. Faust said, guardrails. So one of the guardrails we put in was for the grading, so that counselors can support them and do academic advisement for grading. The same we do for a student who is trying to take honors courses when they don't have the prerequisite skills. We provide academic advisement and help them find where they're going to be successful and then push them and be rigorous from that angle. So what we did was we have a parent-student acknowledgement that is a part of this that's referenced in this MOU that will help parents understand. So you're not going to have access to their records. You're going to want to make sure your kid gives you logins and that kind of thing. And we also need you to be in communication with us as we will be asking for this information. But then, as Dr. Faison mentioned, we asked for their deadlines so we can provide those, because our parents have said, well, you didn't tell us when the last day for drop ad was. We don't know. It's not us. That's not our entity. So we're trying to become more involved in order to support our students' success. But we have had students that will take coursework. They'll sign up for a course that we are not fully aware of. They will assume the weight. Then it comes back that it's not the weight for their GPA they thought it was, and they want us to fix it. We can't. That's unethical and unlawful. So we're trying to do things on the front end to prevent ineligibility with athletics, to prevent a damaged GPA that by the time the child is 18 and they've graduated from high school, they don't start their college career with a negative. So we're trying to make sure that they start off with their best approach, their most successful approach.
And so then, with the academic advisor piece that you were talking about, is that on our end, or is that still utilizing the CFCC liaison?
So that would be collaborative, because we want to make sure we can see on our end, when I say we, counselors, athletic directors, we can see the schedules that they have now, and we see their 4-year plan toward graduation. We are trying to maintain a connection with the liaisons at Cape Fear and with our students on, let us know what courses you have signed up for. Liaison, let us know how they're doing in those courses so that we can help them plan accordingly, but it's back and forth. And establishing this MOU, it's been hours and hours and hours of work for months, and lots of meetings with Cape Fear staff have been wonderful in helping us put the things they need in place and the things we need in place. And all of it is to really draw in that roadmap where we reduce the likelihood of ineligibility and GPA messes and failed courses.
Thank you. Well, I guess my question is, since you've been working on it for so long, there's got to be deadlines, right? You need this in place by a certain time?
December.
It was due December.
It was due December, and so,
yes.
Since this is not until next week, is there any way to get the questions answered by next week, so we don't have to pull it? I mean,
If you questions that we need to answer, that's exactly what I was going to ask,
Right.
because, we'll do whatever the board needs us to do and answer any questions you have. So if you can give us the questions, we'll definitely make sure they get answered.
Well, I was just saying, that's why, I mean, it's already past where, with their deadline that they already have for December. They need this in place, so I think to delay it a month is probably not good. So you had a question, you guys had questions, can we get that answered by next week? So we don't have to pull it from the agenda?
I have no problem, I think maybe we can get a group together. I know that Mr. Morton has some concerns with the C. The C, I think, was pretty well explained, the power school thing. I mean, I think, it sounds to me, both sides need to kind of give a little bit, and it doesn't sound like either side's,
Well, I'll be honest with you.
Go ahead.
Our first and main goal is our students. And I shared that with Mr. Morton and told him, he asked me about, and I'll say it, he said, so what do you do when kids make a D in your class? I said, well, we tutor them. There's not an option for kids to do that for them, so kids just fail. And so we won't see eye to eye on that, because it's hard for me to give a 16-year-old full access and privilege to all their education, because we don't do that every day. I mean, we have to contact parents. We set up conferences with parents. We set up tutoring. We do small group settings for kids, and then you go and it's like there's nothing. So we have to be able to, one, at least be able to tell the parent that, hey, drop ad is on this date. Your kid made a D in this class. We have gone through a number of ineligibilities for sports. Kids go in with a 3.5, they get 2 Fs in CFCC. And then we are looking like the bad guy because we are now having to follow North Carolina High School Association requirements because you didn't pass. Now you have to go through an appeal process. But if we knew that, then possibly the kid could have withdrawn from the class. I would not want to send a kid away who I don't care if they had a 1.5 on hours, but I don't want them to go somewhere and have an F in a class when we know that we provide safeguards for them. So I'll be honest, we won't agree on those things, and that's basically what it is. And we can't give them all access. We don't give them all access. They don't give us access at all. Like, we can't even call them and say, hey, this student A has this. I couldn't do it for my own child. I had to get a waiver signed by my child.
It's like FERPA, right? I mean,
do it. So all we're asking them to do is, one, abide by our rules and help our parents and our students know when those dates are. If a kid has a D, we are saying, that's probably not the class that you need to take. We need to bring the parent in and have them sign off on waivers, but we are just not giving full access to 16 and 17-year-olds and saying, just, if you want to take all the college courses, doesn't matter if you failed or not. That's all that's what that's, in a nutshell, that's what that's saying.
I just want to follow up, because this is what we have to do to make sure we have some agreement. Are we going to be able to come to one?
I just want to follow up and say we have been meeting with them since November. The three of us didn't just come up. We have been meeting with them. We worked together with this. And I just want to remind the board, when we show the failure list, how many students were not being successful. And to say, because a student has a C, we want to counsel you and talk to you to make sure that you are on the right path, that's what we have to do. We're not saying no to anything. We're just saying you're going to take college courses, and right now you're getting a C. We want to make sure that doesn't drop to a D, doesn't get to an F, because we've seen how many students have been failing taking the courses, and it's our obligation.
Well, I'm just going to chime in again. I think that maybe we should, the idea of maybe delaying, doing anything with this for a week and then figuring it out, because I think, I'm hearing from this side, I'm hearing from the other side that, well, we can't see your stuff, you can't see our stuff. I think that there could be, maybe I'm wrong. I've been wrong before, but that maybe there could be. It sounds like we would love to have some access on their end. They're saying that they've always had access on our end, and all of a sudden now we're getting blocked, and so there's a concern there. So maybe I have no problem in the next couple days sitting down. Maybe Dr. Faison, Ms. Brinson, myself to meet with maybe Ms. Bradford to meet with some people from CFCC, and we can just not do it. But we do have a motion and a second in front of us, so we have to figure out what we can do with that.
Real quick, I just wanted to let you know, they're not blocked now. This change in the procedure was going to start next school year, so they have their access now. Their access did not stop yet.
Okay, very good. Ms. Graybill?
So, yeah, I wanted to just go back on that point, is on page 12, we outline very specifically what the Cape Fear Community College career coach responsibilities are, what they can do, what they should be doing as far as, counseling the students, meeting with parents, encouraging the kids, on how to be an adult. And then on page 13, it talks about what our responsibilities are. So I think that we laid out a very good specific deal on how that works. So I just wanted everybody to read that. And I thought that we should all send, my suggestion would be all of us to send our questions to you. And I don't think that we should pick another board member to go. You're our spokesperson, and if we even need to have board people there at all, because they're not having their trustees there, I'm assuming. This is a in the weeds, kind of thing, not a board decision. But I did find what I was talking about on page 5, if we could go to page 5. So on page 5, the second paragraph, where it says, this is the second sentence, all individuals deemed by the public school partner deemed necessary recipients will receive weekly enrollment reports and final grade reports. I am not certain I follow that. Do we have too many deems in there? I'm not certain. It's the last sentence in the first paragraph, in the second paragraph.
I'll review.
Would you just like look?
Review it, yes.
Okay, yeah, it didn't quite flow. But I think that personally that that they made put in so much more detail than we've ever had before. And this is something that it's not really, to me, a board, the board shouldn't be interjecting what we think should be happening. The entities that make it happen are the ones that should be doing that.
Okay, we have yes, ma'am?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, one more point of discussion. I had a comment for B, but I had a concern because we're also approving the course guide and the District C contract. I can't remember which one it is, but talking about credit recovery and outlining that process, I think is really important. So those talking and discussing the CFCC and making sure that we have that process in place, consistent district-wide, before we pass those things are important to me. So I'm in favor of making sure that is in place, and hearing from conversation, it sounds like that ball is rolling, but I don't know if it's a formalized process.
We have already approved the course guide. We're just adding something from the state about accelerated pathway and the update to Mosley's page. You've already approved the course guide a few months ago. So this is the course guide that is being circulated and used in our schools currently. So that is the only change that's being made to the course guide.
Mr. Wildebohr, I want to comment on something that Ms. Barnhart said, just to make sure that I'm clear on it, is we don't have we are not responsible for credit recovery for any class that a kid takes at Cape Fear Community College. We can't, so I don't think we should be worrying about intermingling the two, because we can't do anything about credit recovery. We can't do anything about getting extra credit, for our students there. So those are, credit recovery really is only for the classes we offer. Is that right? It's not for Cape Fear Community College classes.
Credit recovery is exactly for the classes
It's
that are
just for
offered in
us.
the high school.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not for Cape Fear Community College classes.
Okay, folks, we have a motion and a second in front of us. Pull this off of next week's discussion, or for next week's meeting.
Well, we can vote no to it and then make another motion, or we can correct the motion now if we want to do that.
Right.
So
We have a motion in front of us.
I would like to make a motion that we change the motion to say that we postpone further discussion today, send comments to you so that we can discuss it at the regular board meeting.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
There's a second. Any further discussion? If not, so this is the amended motion to postpone the discussion until next week and to send questions and comments to me. Ms. Bowie, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Wildebohr,
Yes.
Ms. Mason,
Yes.
Ms. Barnhart,
Yes.
Ms. Bradford?
No.
Ms. Craybill?
Yes.
Mr. McManus?
Yes.
And Ms. Walker?
Yes.
Okay, that passes 6-1. We can carry on.
You have a date for us when we have to have our questions to you?
Let's say by tomorrow, because
Yeah.
I've got to get with Mr.
Yes.
Morton and
By
figure out
tomorrow.
when that's going to happen, and Dr. Faison, see when she's available, Ms. Brinson. Yeah, so we'll get that. So please get that to me by tomorrow. Yes, sir.
This
Mr.
doesn't
McManus.
affect the vote. May I ask some clarity about something?
Absolutely.
Or maybe state something and ask clarity. Hey, Dr. Faust, is this in writing that we're so separated that we don't get the communication that we feel is necessary in time and or about? Is there anything in writing, or is that a state?
So there's two answers to that. We never had an MOU with CFCC. And so we are putting one in place. Is it in writing in their policy? It is in writing that we don't, that we can't get access.
Is that done by their local board, or is that done by the state of North Carolina for every single one of the schools?
I don't know.
Probably the local board. How many years have we put candidates on Cape Fear Community College board? We put how many the last year?
We don't do it
Not open.
anymore.
How many have we?
Oh, yeah.
Every
One
year
year.
for a lot of
One
years.
year.
We
Right.
put one a year.
And so we don't communicate with them? Just a question.
Good question. Okay, let's carry on with the rest of the agenda.
No, we've
Yes.
got more consensus.
Yeah, I'm sorry?
So can I go back to B? I had a
Go ahead, go back
question.
to B. Yep.
I did have a question for you. Ms. Crable asked my first question, but Ms. Barnum, do we get reimbursed through insurance or Medicaid for any of the cost of these speech therapies?
Sometimes. So we do participate in Medicaid billing for Medicaid reimbursement to offset the cost of these high-cost services. But it is the parents' choice whether they consent for us to bill Medicaid. We do not bill any private insurance. We would only bill public insurance, Medicaid. But if parents don't give us consent, then we don't bill.
So there's a potential that the total cost of the services, the roughly $400,000, would go down after we get reimbursement through Medicaid?
The cost doesn't go down because we still have to pay it, and then our Medicaid money comes in sometimes. It used to come in 2 or 3 years late. Now it comes in 9 or 10 months later. So, yeah, we have to plan way ahead, but we have to provide the services that are, required by federal law.
Right.
And then plan around the reimbursements that we will get.
But would it just go back into, like, our general fund balance? when we
It
get
goes into a
reimbursed?
separate fund that is used for,
Specifically? Okay.
that is used for special education and related services.
Thank you.
Other questions? Consents? Ms. Craybill?
Yeah, so letter F, the District C contract, I'm assuming this is all through Perkins, right? Okay. So when do we normally hold this summer camp, and how are teachers and students selected to be part of that summer camp?
We don't have the exact dates of the summer camp, and teachers are selected through the CTE process. CTE actually works with teachers, and honestly, when teachers reach out and students reach out, if you want to be a part, for the most part, you can be a part. We are trying to increase the number. We were not near to 144 students last year, so we don't turn students away.
Okay.
This is the one where we had it at Ashley and.
Yes, yes.
So there is a page.
You have to
where
fill
we
out
can-
an application of
They fill
some
out an
sort.
application, yes, for students.
Okay, but 144 is a lot of kids.
Yes,
Yeah.
we're trying to increase that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Ms. Mason?
Just a note, I am not going to be able to vote on G, so I just wanted to, since I am an employee also of Cape Fear, so I just wanted to make that note that that will have to be pulled separate.
Okay, very good. All right, anything else on the consensus items? Ms. Craybill?
H, the summer testing, is there a reason why Math 2 isn't included in that? Huh, it's not a tested grade, okay, easy. Okay, letter J, the contracts extending into the fiscal year. I thought we just approved all these,
These are new since the last time you approved.
different ones, okay.
So, yeah, so what's happening as we get close to the end of the year, schools are already starting to have to renew as those
Okay.
softwares or licenses are starting to end. So every month, you'll probably get a new list of a couple more that have come up since the last board meeting.
So as a follow-up to that, none of these were expensive. You know, it didn't look like they were very expensive. But so how do we factor that into this budget? For us approving this extension, does that automatically get them included in our budget? Like, are they going to have to like do a zero and say, I need
Bill,
that?
Yep, so most of the time, these are schools, softwares that you're approving, because normally, not always, but normally, departments have their contracts running through a fiscal year. And so I always make sure that the allotment that we're planning for schools, because we are not planning on a reduction to the school supply allotment for next year. And so I make sure that they have enough money from our allocation for next year to be able to continue
Cover
that software. However, if for some reason the board determines that they want to reduce school instructional supply money, then what we would do, there's always, I make sure that there's a clause in the agreement where we can give 30 days notice to end the agreement. So that would be what happens if for some reason the schools don't have the money to continue that software.
Gotcha, okay. And then I had one last question for M, but I'm not certain if it is if we need to discuss my question in closed session or not, but reading through the program, I love our beginning teacher program, it's a model for the state. But I didn't know, with some of the levels that were in there, like the mentor, the lead mentor, bringing back the retired teacher mentor, how that is going to fit in with some of the budgetary things we've been discussing. Title II, okay. And then, okay, that's what I wanted to just make sure. And then these mentors get stipends, right, for being mentors? Or they do it out of the goodness of their heart?
Correct.
Stipends.
And that's also paid out of the federal title.
Okay, gotcha.
Correct, all of them, really. All of the entire beginning teacher support program is funded through the federal Title II dollars, which are for improving teacher quality, and so that covers the mentors and the cost of the entire program.
Okay, and then one last question that goes with that. Do we have stipulations on beginning teachers' eligibility to transfer? Like, let's say, like their first year wasn't going well, but it might be if we moved the school or did something like that. Are they eligible for that?
Generally, our transfer process requires someone to be in their same building for 3 years. However, there is a clause there that the superintendent or designee, which ends up usually being me, if I feel like that is a reason to give someone another opportunity, that may be something we do.
And that's kind of what I read in there, but
Yes.
I didn't want to superimpose my thoughts on top of what was actually written.
And quite frankly, it really has to do with the trajectory of that employee. If they
Yes.
are improving, generally they have to be showing an ability and an interest in improving.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yep, it is. Thank you very much.
Ms. Bradford?
Are we going to Z space here? It says that each school would get 30. Each school meaning all our schools would get 30? Each and every one?
No, the high schools and the middle. High schools and the middle schools. Sorry about that.
And I do think, Ms. Craybill, we'll need to add some time because we're going to be pulling G, and, obviously.
Oh, and we'll have to talk about that other one. We'll have to talk about pulling G.
Right.
So I only have 5 minutes, so that would be
I would
probably
say-
like 20 minutes?
Yeah, it's probably 20 minutes.
Okay.
Let's do that. Okay. Dr. Faison.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to point out something about District C that I wanted to make the board aware. This year, we're going to try to train our own staff, so it will cost us less and allow us to continue that model throughout the year. And I know I have that, but I just wanted to point that out because it is the opportunity for the students to actually work with real-world problems, and we see the benefit of that throughout the year.
So will it occur, does it occur like in June, right after we get out of school, or is it more like later in July, or more towards let's just say that, I guess what the question I was getting at was, our early college high schools like CTEC would start earlier. Will our camp have already occurred before CTEC and WEX have to go back to school?
Yes, honestly, I can't tell you the exact dates, but it is in the middle of the summer, so all students can participate.
Okay, gotcha, thank you.
All right, carrying on. Ms. Mason, I'll turn it over to you. We're at policy amendments. We've allotted 20 minutes. There's a whole bunch of policies, 2300 all the way down to 9125.
A lot of them are NCSBA changes, with, I believe, 3 or 4 that were discussed in previous board meetings.
Okay. Do you think 20 minutes should be enough time?
I think that should be more than enough time, but there may be other people who disagree.
Yes, there's somebody that disagrees, but I think,
Walker's got a hand up.
Well, I mean, it'd probably lead on to Ms. Krabel's, because I was going to ask that question. Which ones were just NCSBA change, and which ones were the ones that we need to pay attention, really kind of
So,
questions?
looking back,
It's easier to go to the policy agenda.
that's what I'm looking at right now. So, the ones that were not, it's easier to say the ones that were
Yeah,
not
that's what I'm thinking,
substantive policy amendments would be 2300, 2310, 2320, and 2335. One of those we kept in.
I don't see 2310 even here.
2310 is one that we kept in policy.
That's one we kept. So it would be 2300, 2320, and 2335.
Not 2310, I'm sorry.
Yeah, 2310 's
Sorry.
got the held.
2300.
2300, 2320,
Yes.
and 2335.
And I also, I'm still,
There you go.
oh, I'm sorry. 2660 May, I'm still looking for the wording that we got in an email from the Soil and Water Commission on what things have to be in. I'm not certain that our policy covers all the things that they want, but I can't find the email, from them, so I'm still looking. So if it looks like it doesn't match, then I will pull it off. If it looks like it matches and I'm just remembering differently, then I won't pull it off. But those are all policies that have to do with us, our own governance, not state things. So I think 20 minutes, we can always go less.
Okay. All right, we'll do 20 minutes then. Ms. Walker.
Okay, so do we have to talk about which ones are not? Because I do have a question. I see one of the changes for 2300 was 48 hours notice as opposed to our regular notice, which is 5 days, right?
We're going to talk about that at the other meeting.
Oh,
At the
what do you
regular
mean, next week's meeting?
Yeah, well, we're going to pull it off,
Oh,
so that we
okay.
can ask all those
I didn't hear that
questions.
you said you were, so
Yeah.
those are the ones you're going to
Yeah,
be
so
pulled?
2300,
They're all going to be,
23,
okay.
20,
I didn't know that part.
2335. Yep.
Right, okay.
We'll pull those off.
Thank you. I will ask them in,
You're
I'll
good.
ask my questions then.
Absolutely good. I'm sorry.
Could just do the 3 and maybe others consensus, ones that are non-substantial.
That's not a problem.
Well, that was the point that I was going to bring up. We made the decision, many, many months ago, before we even started with Ms. Barnhart as our chair, that policy was policy consensus, that most everything, the idea was for everything to come, and we just go, yes, we vote on it, and we pull off the ones we don't want. So technically, letter 15 should be policy consensus, and then the only time we would have a second one, like a letter A, would be if we had a new policy. That is like for a second reading, or a substantial policy like 1310, when we had to keep coming back and talking about it. So that was just something I think that we can call that policy consensus instead of amendments.
Okay. Well, we could do that and then pull off 2300, 2320, and 2335 for a subcategory.
And we can do that at that meeting, at the meeting on the 12th.
Okay. All right, carrying on old business, we have Career Readiness Academy at Mosley, 40 minutes there. Yes, ma'am?
So I'm not certain what we're discussing. I saw all the handouts, but I'm not certain what we're discussing, because I thought we already, Dr. Faust has taken it off the table, that it's leaving, and it's still staying there. We all agreed to it. The county commissioners basically said, we forbid you to do anything else than what you're doing. So what are we going to be discussing? Is it just the money, so we figure out by keeping that with money, what do we have to eliminate? I'm just curious as to why we are discussing it for 40 minutes. And like, what are we talking about?
Ms. Walker?
I'm a little bit in agreement. I feel like this has been decided. If we have to vote, I mean, I guess that takes 5 minutes, if that. But I mean, 40 minutes of rehashing something I'd rather not rehash, to be honest, if we're keeping the program. I'm confused why it's 40 minutes as well. Can someone answer that?
Well, why are we even talking about it?
Ms. Barnes, Ms. Bethel,
It was on our agenda a month ago, and the public really had questions, and they wanted some closure. And we ran out the clock so that we didn't deal with it. So if we now just tidy it under the rug and say, oh, we've dealt with it, then we're not transparent with the public.
What's there to be transparent?
The public does want to have some answers. And I didn't know we were going to talk about this today, but I came prepared anyway. I had submitted a list of questions, and they didn't get answered, so I made a public records request, and some of them got answered, and we all got that great 30-gig flash drive.
I didn't get that. Just kidding. I was away.
But most people couldn't get it open. And I think Ms. Brinson's made a way that you can go down to the central office, and it's 30 gigs, so you better plan the afternoon to do it. But not every question on the list got answered. I do have a copy of the questions for everybody if you didn't get them yourself. But I do want to give the public the answers to our questions. And one of the things I found on that flash drive, I finally got into it. It took a couple hours, but I did finally get into it. And there was a budget in, I can't remember when, recently. It was in the 24 stuff. There was a document with the budget for the newcomer school, and then the budget, because I'd asked for the figures for mostly the figures for the newcomer school.
It's up there.
And
It's in Assembly. We already got it.
It's like 1.2 million from Mosley and 1.7, almost 1.8 to do the newcomer center. So it was about $500,000 more than keeping Mosley. And there's still some questions about Mosley in terms of those numbers, because we've been told that at least 2, maybe 3 of the staff there are shared among 2 or 3 schools. So my question, Ms. Sutton, would be, if it's shared among schools, why is that not listed on the budget as 1/3 of that salary? Because it can't possibly be, that can't be 1/3 of the salary, is it?
So
It's
can
listed there?
I need to answer the question before Ms. Sutton. If you go back and look at the meeting when Dr. Faison was presenting, she presented both on, what was that, the 26th of November. I stated that the only way that the newcomer center would be opened is if it was fully funded. That was the only cause. So let's not, I don't want us to say that we were going to do it. It was only if it was fully funded. And the budgets here, if you look in there, if you go in there, you'll see that the budget actually has what's 0.5. That means that that's half a position, meaning the person.
Well, there's only one position that has a 0.5.
There's actually a couple up there.
Then maybe it's changed from the one I have.
No, it's the same.
It's what's posted in Assembly.
If we were only going to look to some entity to fund it, and we knew we were in a huge budget crisis, why would we have been interested in increasing anything that would take us up another $500,000? That really kind of messes with me. You know, what we had was less money by $500,000, and we've had people who work at the school send us copious amounts of emails saying their numbers aren't right. They're inflated. There's less people that work there, and some of them are shared. And so I just want to get to the bottom of it so that the public that was so invested, they're still invested. They just put it on pause. And, you know, yeah, we're ready to move right on, but you still got a slow burn out there about Mosley if you're not aware of that. And we said we'd talk about it, and so we should.
Ms. McManus?
We received an edict, basically, from the county commissioners that Mosley would stand. I don't mind discussing. I'm not really trying to be disagreeable, but what do we gain or by discussing it? Mosley is going to remain as is unless there are particulars that we need to do based upon what the county commissioners want us to do. So I don't see why we need to, one of our things is keeping our meeting short, why would we discuss something that's been resolved? Totally. Answering parents about questions, they did not want to lose Mosley, they didn't want to lose their teachers, they didn't want to lose their programs, they did not. So I'm not being negative, I'm being honest, why do we want to discuss it?
I think Mr. McManus said it better than I could say it. I just think 40 minutes is a very long time to discuss something that's already been resolved, and I know there's answers that need to be had. I just think at the time, which was what, how many months ago? Was it?
It was 3 weeks ago.
Oh, it feels like it's been forever. But, you know, the commissioner did say they wanted us to keep those open, and that has happened. And our superintendent has said that is happening. So I just don't want to just spend 40 minutes rehashing something we don't need to rehash. It's not even going to come back to us.
And I don't think we need to spend, I think we need to spend 0 minutes on it, because it's already been decided, and we will see in a couple weeks from Dr. Faust and Ashley how that's being assimilated into our budget. And so that's when we would have a discussion. If it looks like including that program costs blah, 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 then we go, oh my gosh, where'd that blah, blah, blah come from? And then we have to decide, you know, are we going to spend that? And if we are, yes. Does that mean we have to cut something else? Maybe. And then we decide right there. I just don't think that we need to answer it. We've been given so much information, and we can share that with the public. And the public has heard loud and clear we're keeping it. So I don't think we need to spend any time talking about it, a problem that's, or a situation that has already been resolved. So that's why my motion is to pull 16, letter A, off of the agenda.
We have a motion, is there a second? Hearing
Second.
none? I'm sorry?
You did it?
Second, okay. We have a motion and a second to pull 16A totally off, is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Discussion? Ms. Bradford?
Granted, some people at the table are not in the reelection cycle, but we have talked and talked and talked and talked and talked and talked and talked about transparency.
Has nothing to do with anything if
We've
you're in the
talked about-
cycle or not. Thank you.
We've talked about transparency. Just because we didn't get to it on our agenda last month is no reason to just slide it under the rug and pretend like it didn't happen. That's not transparency. That's not what the public expects of us. They expect us to be wide open like a book. And if it's the majority of the board to do that, I will vote against you yet again. But I want to give people the answers they'd like to know and not leave them thinking that we pulled a fast one on them. Or, there are still, okay, in that flash drive that y'all can't open, there was an email thread between teachers in the school district saying, do you believe the board that they didn't see it? Do you believe the school district that they told them earlier than November? There was an actual conversation between a couple of them. I really don't want teachers thinking that we lied to them and that we covered it up and we slid it under the rug and we really knew, but we just didn't say anything. I don't want that out there. I didn't know about it. If there's anyone on the board that did know about it before we heard about it November, yes, Dr. Faust went on TV and told everybody he'd given it to us in a board memo. There's 7 of us. None of us saw it because most of us were quoted in the
We can
press
only
as
speak
saying.
for ourselves.
Gravely, you're out of order.
Most of us were quoted in the press as saying that
Point of
we
order,
hadn't
she
seen
cannot
it.
speak for me. She cannot speak for me and what I understood and what I read. So that's my point of order to her point of order.
All right.
Thank
Now
you.
we have a point of order.
Yeah.
So-
Now we'll rule that that is well taken. So
Thank you.
don't speak for other people.
Yeah, he did, so that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, somehow miraculously, none of us, well, I didn't see it, and there were a number of other people quoted in the newspapers as saying they didn't see it either. So again, it creates a cloud out in the community. It looks like we're cheating them.
You have to correct.
Well, it was, we have a physical copy of the email, so it was there.
Yeah,
I
it was
agree.
3 weeks
I don't remember
earlier,
seeing
so it
but
was
there.
early November. But it'd been in the planning for years.
And some of us on the board, Mr. Wildeboer, you included, me, you, Mr. McManus, Ms. Walker, we heard this presentation on February 2021 about perhaps doing a newcomer school. We heard that. Mary C. Williams was going to be that when we were talking about River Lights and our student population. We heard that, and you can go back and read it in the minutes, and you can watch it on television. So to have us say that we had not ever heard about it is wrong. Had we heard about it regularly? No. But we did hear about it, it was in the planning phases, and our county commissioners heard about it because we had to ask for River Lights. So to say that we didn't know about it is just wrong, and I think that we need to go on record with that.
Okay. We'll let Ms. Bradford finish.
Thank you, sorry.
Ms. Beth?
I guess it's an anomaly. I'm the only one. I do have some memory of people saying they hadn't heard it. I can go back and pull the reports out of the press specifically. But it's clear that one member of our board or two members of our boards don't want to do it. So I'll just vote, and we'll do the will of the board. I have no problem voting against you.
Ms. Walker?
Thank you, Mr. Roy. This is what I'm talking about. This is going to happen again next week for 40 minutes. And I don't think we got away with anything, to be honest, whatever that means, sweeping under the rug. I don't think so. I think I've spoken a lot about it. I think we've all spoken a lot about it. I think we've got stuff up on here. I mean, I'm all for transparency, trust me. It's just, I don't want to have to do this for 40 minutes next week. And I feel like there's more important business we could be working on. If we want, I mean, I guess if folks want to make something official, that's fine, but like, I just don't see the point of rehashing every single thing that's either been in the media or we've spoken about, or it's just been out there. So it just sounds like it'll be a painful thing to do, and I just don't see the point of it because it has been resolved. So to Ms. McManus's point, I just don't see what 40 minutes of discussion again will do.
Okay.
That's
At this
all.
point, we have a motion and a second to pull, what's that, 15, 16?
16A.
16A. Ms. Blue, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Wildebohr,
No.
Ms. Mason,
No.
Ms. Barnhart,
No.
Ms. Bradford,
No?
Ms. Craybill,
Yes.
Mr. McManus,
Yes.
and Ms. Walker.
Yes.
Defeated 4-3. We will carry on with
So are we leaving 40 minutes for that discussion?
Yeah, can I
what-
make a
that's what
motion
we
to at least reduce the time, please?
We have a motion,
Can I make a motion to reduce to 15 minutes, please?
15 minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
The first and second. Any further discussion on that? Ms. Bradford?
I would amend that we limit the time per person, because there's 7 of us. Each of us got to speak for 15 minutes with no interchange. That would take up all the time, and if one board member speaks for 15 or 20 minutes, then we run over time, and none of the rest of us got a chance to speak.
What was that, an amendment? What was that amendment?
Amended amount of time each person can speak, so that we all have ability to speak on the item.
So 15 minutes, so 2 minutes apiece.
That's fair?
Are you okay with that?
I'm fair with it. I mean, I'm fine with that amendment. Do we got to vote on that amendment? We need a second to that amendment, right?
We need a second to that amendment.
We do need a second.
I will second that. So we have a first and second on that, to limit everyone to 2 minutes about that, so that's 15, and that gives me a minute to...
2 times 7 is 14, so we have 2 minutes.
That's what I just
Okay,
said.
but are we going to vote on something?
We're going to right now.
No, I mean, are we using that last minute to vote?
Could be. I don't know. We'll find out what happens. Mr. McManus, you had your hand up. Appreciate that.
Part of the oath that we took to be on the board says we will not, we will not do what is of personal bias, and we certainly won't make it a political because of our politics. And it disappoints me that we still have board members openly say, well, I was running for the board or not. I would still support it or not support it. But when someone says, well, they're not running for office, I can't, yes, I can. I can believe that was said. But that might be one of the lowest things I've heard in a long, long time for politics.
At this point, we have a motion and a second to limit everyone...
But when you have 4 votes, you can do that, can't
2
you?
minutes. We have 2 minutes.
So my motion was to limit it to 15. The amendment that was seconded was to have 2 minutes each with 1 minute for, I guess, you to close
Wrap
out.
up.
Yep,
Is that okay?
that sounds good.
And that's what we're voting on, the
We're
amendment?
voting on that right now.
Okay.
Okay, Ms. Thank you.
So we got Mr. Wildebohr,
Yes.
Ms. Mason,
Yes.
Ms. Barnhart,
Yes.
Ms. Bradford,
Yes.
Ms. Craybill,
No.
Mr. McManus,
I don't
Well, I'm
want
going to vote yes. I want to support giving a board member the opportunity to repeat what everybody already knows.
and Ms. Walker.
Yes.
Okay, that passes 6-1. Now we go back to the original motion and that is to limit the time from 40 minutes to 15.
Mr. Wildebohr?
Yes.
Ms. Mason?
Yes.
Ms. Barnhart?
No.
Ms.
Wait,
Bradford?
Tell me what we're voting on again.
To move
From 40 to
15 minutes.
Oh, okay. I guess I'll have to vote for that, okay.
Your suggestion?
So Ms. Barnhart was no?
Yeah.
Ms. Bradford?
No.
Ms. Craybill?
Yes. No, wait, we're voting on from 40 to 15?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, I want 40 to 15, sorry. There's too many
I know.
side things.
Mr. McManus?
Yes?
And Ms. Walker?
Yes.
That passes 5-2, so we will change that, Ms. Graybill, to 15 minutes.
Yeah, got it.
All right, carrying on new business, school.
Oh, wait a minute, I got something else. Oh, old business,
Okay.
letter B. I make a
Oh,
motion.
sorry, I skipped that one.
I make a motion that we strike 4351 from the agenda because this is not the appropriate place to talk about it. We have a policy committee that is supposed to be discussing it. We talked about at our last board meeting that we wanted to have a work session to talk about what short-term suspensions and disciplines and all that kind of stuff goes. So I don't know that we don't talk about policy and decide policy without it going through policy committee. So that is my reason for striking it from an agenda without having the policy committee having looked at it at all.
Okay, so we have a motion from Ms. Graybill. Is there a second?
I'll second just for discussion, because I just
Okay.
would like to know that question. Can I start, Mr. Wilson?
Second, Ms. Walker.
So I don't know who put it on here. I'm not really sure. I know.
Ms. Bradford.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, thank you. I mean, obviously, we had a group come to us and want to talk about it. And I'm fine to talk about suspension. I mean, we've been talking about this for years. I think we have done some amendments on suspensions in the past. I just don't know why it's here and not going through policy first. That's all the questions I had. Maybe Ms. Bradford can answer that. I don't mean to be personal.
Or Ms. Mason.
Whoever. I'm fine with whoever
Ms.
wants
Mason had her hand up, so we'll go with Ms. Mason next.
And I actually took the note, I saw that this was a concern that Ms. Bradford had brought forward, and so I have brought it to the lawyer, and that's something that I hope that we can discuss at the next policy meeting. So it should be on the agenda for the policy meeting on the 18th, 19th.
Yeah, of March.
Yeah.
Ms. Bradford?
I actually typed the request in the middle of the call to the audience last month, because as long as I can remember, these people have been coming and begging us to consider the children, and they're just asking to be heard. And while I don't necessarily know how I would vote on anything, I want to hear from them, and then I want to hear this body respond to them in an open forum so that they get their answers. Because honestly, the amount of time that we have listened to them beg us to take up policy 4351 is, again, we're disappointing people when we don't have to. We can just be transparent. Whatever our reasons are for saying no to them, if we say no to them, then they need to know it, and then we can move on. I'm sure, that they'd be grateful for that.
Ms. Walker?
So I'm absolutely happy to hear that we're going to be discussing it finally, but my question is, why are we doing it at a board meeting when we haven't gone through policy yet? And are we going to perhaps vote on something? Because it's under an actionable item on the agenda, so.
It says possible action, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I guess, I don't know if we should do that, or I mean, because I think we're going to hear from people, and I think you may be referring to the Love Our Children, you want to hear from them. I know.
I'm sure.
Ms. Bradford?
I'm sure that.
Ms. Bradford?
Well, yes, so, because we've all individually met with them a bunch of times. I know I have over the 3.5 years I've been on the board, and I'm happy to. I think they're a great group. I'm worried that we're going to be trying to make policy on there without having all the answers, that's all. I mean, I'm not opposed to the discussion.
Ms. Bradford?
I just, if they come to policy, they don't have a chance to speak at all, and it's in the middle of the day, and, I don't know their schedules. I just wanted it transparent. I have complete strangers come up to me and ask me, why do you never let those people on policy 4351 have what they're asking for? Well, does it make any sense to me why you would not let a little person have a phone call to the parent to say, come? And I think I've heard the answer at least once in a policy meeting at one time, But I just think for the sake of transparency and just flat out kindness, we need to hear it in a public setting. Let them, and they'll sign up for call to audience. Somehow they manage to always get on there, and they always talk about the same thing. I just want to give them their due process.
Yeah, and so I don't disagree with anything that's being said here, but I think that we need to be consistent in following our policies and our protocols. And we don't bring policies to the board without having gone through the policy. Ms. Bradford can make all of these statements in a public forum at our policy committee, and the people that are coming to call to the audience now will know that we're talking about it at the next policy committee meeting. So they will have an opportunity to again talk to us, from call to the audience, reach out to us, have special meetings with us. So I'm not opposed to the discussion at all. I'm opposed to not following our process and getting ahead of ourselves, because we shouldn't continue to do that. That was my only reason.
Ms. Barnhart.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do recall this was discussed in policy last year, and one of the concerns that was brought up by our principal representative. In the general statute, from recollection, it does not require a parent present, because in the extreme situation, well, we know that it's a relationship, right, with our parents and our schools. And so we don't want to tie the hands of any party involved when we're talking about due diligence. And so I saw this on the agenda, and I thought the whole point of putting it on the whole format was because not everybody watches the policy meetings, and so to have that conversation openly, to understand this is where the general statute's coming from, this is the process and procedure that we value and do say, because all those, when we had this discussion in policy meeting, it was talked about what the process is to go through to involve the families and the parents, but also it was an acknowledgement of the general statute that does not make that requirement in the event that a parent could use that against us. They say, well, if we don't come up to school, then they can't suspend my kid. And so we find ourselves in this interesting situation, let me say it like that. And that was from recollection, I don't know, this was probably 9 months ago. So this was something that we brought to policy and had the conversation. So I have no problem having the open discussion to kind of share that out in a public forum. I did not read this as saying that there is going to be, if there is a discussion that we would like for the policy committee to make recommendations, we can do that. But I felt reading this, that was the process behind why this was there.
Mr. McManus, then Ms. Walker.
I agree. It's something we need to hear. I don't have a problem with that whatsoever. The policy committee, they can decide right now. Obviously, we've got 50%. So what's the other 50%? And then we can move on. I don't mind hearing them, but we need to be prepared because, well, I was pointing at you because you were, but Bradford and
Craybill.
yeah, thank you. And
Mason.
But you need to be aware that trying to contact parents in the middle of the day is a challenge, which most of you've never experienced. And depending on the discipline issue, it's unreasonable to expect to hold a kid in an office area or stick them with someone else to be in charge of them, which nobody certainly doesn't appreciate having to do that for you. I've been in a lot of offices this year in other schools and seen when a kid was seated, and it's a challenge for the secretary. You make them a caretaker immediately, and anyone else who walks in the door. But I think it's a good discussion. But I think we need to make sure that we're prepared for alternatives. Do you call a parent? Of course you should call a parent. But I assure you there are many parents that can't come. So do you delay it? Do you send them back to the teacher's classroom? I wouldn't advise that. Number two, where do you put them? And so just so as long as we understand the big picture, because that's not going to work all the time. I'll probably say most of the time. Because then you got a principal sit there and someone might have to find transportation, or they might be in a meeting. Well, can we do it at 4 o'clock? Or can we do it? I mean, just think about the way the programs work. But a phone call and a FaceTime, maybe that's the way to make it work. But to come to school, I'm not sure that's going to work at all.
Thank you, Mr. McManus. Ms. Walker?
I guess I'll close out my discussion on this. I guess since it's already on policy again, correct? Then that is that seems like me the best method, and then we can bring it back next month and have our own discussion once it's gone through policy and we've gotten our recommendations from the policy committee, if any, and if we hear from staff. I don't have a problem talking about it. The possible action part is the one I have a problem with, because I don't feel like that's the process that we should be doing from the dais about a policy that really needs a lot of discussion, as Mr. McManus has just pointed out. We need to hear from staff, we need to hear from, parents, or maybe other parents, or maybe, people that are in the policy committee. I just think, I'm happy to hear about it, that's all, but I don't, and have discussion, like Ms. Barnes said, but I don't know about voting on anything. That's what can we stick it under another section, or maybe
No,
have it under?
it's not the appropriate place.
I know, I'm trying to be easy.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and vote.
Can I just make one point too,
You
that
actually had your 2 times already.
the principal won't be there
Thank you.
at this meeting on the dais.
This motion now is to pull 16B from the meeting next week.
Mr. Wildebohr,
Yes.
Ms. Mason,
Yes.
Ms. Barnhart,
Yes.
Ms. Bradford,
The motion is to pull it?
To pull
Yes.
it. And because it's going through, my thought is it's going through policy already.
No.
Ms. Craybill,
Yes.
Ms. McManus,
Yes.
and Ms. Walker.
Yes.
That passes 6-1, so that will be pulled for next week. Yes, ma'am?
Would it be possible, I don't want to have a policy meeting where we have people lined up to talk to us. I don't want us to sit there and make a decision without hearing people talk to us. That was the whole point. So what do? Do we have a town hall on it? Do we have a workshop on it? Because these people are not going to stop coming and asking us until we deal with it once and for all. That was the point, to have 7 people hear everything at the same time, not to have to watch a video, hear from staff if they're in there, and come to some conclusions in our heads. Then when we go to policy, we can actually work on it in policy. But you're just putting the horse, in the wrong place with the cart, and it's not accomplishing the whole point of the discussion. Just because.
Point of order. We already voted on this.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. We're going to carry on then to new business. School Meals for All program. Then NCSBA Legislative Committee. Ms. Craybill?
So under new business A, the school meals, I'm wondering where this resolution came from, and are there other districts around the state that are doing this? Are we leading the pack? Are we being expected to pay for it? I know it's said about the state, but if the state tells us we have to do it and then they don't fund us, then how are we going to do it? So I'm just wondering some of those kind of questions.
We can have discussion now, or we can have
Okay,
discussion next week.
I'm going to ask those questions, so that's.
Okay.
Yeah, I can answer.
Go ahead. Go for it.
So yeah, the organization, we actually had 2 of our students highlighted for Laney and New Hanover. They got chosen to go present at the conference, and I don't know if they're actually going over there, but this organization came up about a year ago, and they're just an advocacy to make sure that all students have meals that they can eat, breakfast and lunch. And so I had met the founder, organizer, and I said, do you guys have an open form of resolution that we as a board can support and show our legislators that this is something that we do support? I know the General Assembly, there was movement to close the gap on feeding students. We saw an increase with our community eligibility schools this last year. And then in our county, we had $300,000 worth of meal debt last school year. And so this is something that I think we even had to hire, please correct me if I'm speaking, and not correctly, Ms. Sutton, but we had to hire to collect for those meals that were not unpaid from last year, try to do debt collection. So I don't know what the fees associated with it, but at least $300,000 that we basically had to pull from our fund balance in order to cover this. So I thought this was something, I know that we have a legislative committee and different things that we like to discuss. This was a suggestion that they are going to have the opportunity for this organization, School Meals for All, for school boards to openly sign a resolution. I had sent it to you, Mr. Wildebohr, and said, please allow our legal counsel to look at this and see if it's something, but it's just something that I wanted to bring forth to say, does this board want to support this openly? And that's it.
Ms. Walker?
Okay. Well, I'm definitely not opposed to trying to figure out how we can support free meals. I don't really see a problem with that. I did read the announcement just recently that the governor has allowed a grant for public schools to expand to breakfast, and New Hanover is one of them. I don't know what staff member applied for that, because it's a different kind of like a section to our budget. But we are one of the schools that were granted, there's a $1.3 million grant for 42 school districts to do free breakfast, and that already passed. I'm going to be in support of any resolution that helps, feed kids. I don't really know where it comes from, but, I don't mind resolving that. I just wanted to bring that up as well. I could have done it under correspondence, but this is a fine time to do it.
That's a great time. Thank you.
Time.
Thank you, Sharon. Ms. Bradford?
We had a really bad optic last year when the word got out that, that we were going to keep kids from doing this or, arrest kids or anything. It was just a lot of, in fact, somebody cornered me about it. Somebody cornered me about this last week. What are you going to do about the kids and feeding them? Are you going to, are you going to let them not graduate? Are you going to this? Are you going to that? I'm like, no, we're taking care of it. So I think anything we can do to, make it easier to make sure that the kids get fed. This is a no-brainer.
Okay, well, thank you for that, but we're going to arrest kids? What was
I don't know, I said something and
a nice gentleman approached me and was very aggressive with me about this, and I'm just like, I'm serious. And I had nothing to do with this. I didn't put it on the agenda. I didn't know it was going to be on the agenda.
Yeah, we don't arrest kids. No, we.
I know. I'm just saying, it was really bad optic last year.
Ms. Cradle?
Can I just ask Ashley a question about, we didn't use our fund balance to pay for the child nutrition debt, did we?
So we are required, because child nutrition funds are considered federal money, because most of that is coming through federal grants for the reimbursement piece for the kids that eat for free or at reduced price. So we do have to pay any uncollectible charges. We do have to pay for that out of local money, and then we also charge the schools. So some of the schools use their school funds money to pay for the uncollected debt. So we are required to pay that. We currently do not have a contract in place. We did talk about entering into a contract to have someone help us collect fees, but we did not move forward with that contract. So we currently do not have a contract in place for that.
Yeah, and I remember as a principal calling a lot of parents saying, can you please show up, and we, you were way behind on.
Wasn't there somebody that brought a plan or met with you? They talked at Call the Audience, and they something about, can you get donations from the public to pick up the difference? Remind us what that was.
Yep. So, and I don't remember the gentleman's name, but there was someone that I met with and came to call the audience and wanted to assist with helping collect donations, but I haven't heard anything else.
Okay. Yes, ma'am?
One of the policies, it does say we are not allowed to stop students from participating, and this is coming before us, so I just wanted to put that out there, because we are not allowed to stop students from participating in anything just because they have unpaid school meal debt. So I felt like that's necessary to say.
Can I get a time on that? 5 minutes?
Let's go 5 minutes for that. Then NCSBA Legislative Committee, probably another 5 minutes. Correspondence, I don't think we'll have much. So we can carry on with that. Announcements, close, and we will, board members, just letting you know, and I can tell you why exactly, we will have a short closed session next week, so that will be.
At the end of the meeting?
Yes, so
And-
probably 15 minutes on that, at least. It's about something I can't tell you about.
Right.
But I'll tell you about it later. All right. Thank you, board members. We've gotten through that section of the meeting. We'll now move to our closed session. I will. Oh,
Yeah,
Ms. Grable,
so,
how much
okay,
time?
okay, so
Boy,
it's-
keep me straight today.
I added 5 minutes for a break, so it would be 200 minutes divided by 60 is 3 hours and 33 minutes.
All right, we're under 4, which is great, that's good. All right, at this point, I will call for a motion to go into closed session pursuant to General Statute 143, 318, 11C for the following purposes: to prevent disclosure of information which is privileged or confidential pursuant to General Statute 115C 402, and not considered public record within the meaning of Chapter 132 of the General Statutes.
So moved.
I'm not done yet. To consult with attorney in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the board, including respect to John Doe's 1 through 14 versus New Hanover County Board of Education, and John Doe's 15 through 17 versus New Hanover County Board of Education, and BH versus New Hanover County Board of Education, and to consider qualifications, competence, performance, characters, fitness, conditions of appointment, or conditions of initial employment of an individual employed or considered for employment to the school system, or to hear or investigate a complaint, charge, or grievance or by or against any individual employee. I do have a motion over there from Ms. Bradford. Thank you, Ms. Bradford. I will second that. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. That passes 7-0. Board members, we will meet in 5 minutes, so please do anything you need to on the way.
Anything?
No, I take that back. No. 1, 2, 3,
I'll
4.
read it anyway.
We are back in open session. Our next item is personnel report. Would someone like to make a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the personnel report.
I'll second that. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of approving the personnel report, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. That carries 6-0.
5.
She's here,
She wasn't here.
but she was in the room. I heard her vote. Anyway, next information, committee reports. Ms. Mason, I think you had the committee reports?
Oh, I have some, yes. And if the board would like to see this information, I can absolutely send it to you. We heard from, I am going to be speaking on behalf of the Gifted Advisory Council and on behalf of the EC. They call themselves the Advisory Council for Exceptional Students. I will start briefly with, sorry, I just moved very quickly for me. I know that this information was sent to board members, but I just wanted to make sure the public heard it too. And so the Advisory Council for Exceptional Students has been discussing budget and has been discussing concerns that they have with budget, and they wanted to make the following recommendations to us. They recommend that urgent attention surrounding the 16-point gap in least restrictive environment ratio be applied to meet or exceed the North Carolina State Department of Public Instruction target. They recommend prioritizing EC staffing and retention appropriately to meet federally required services, and they recommend addressing disproportionate behavior practices with behavior specialists and other supports. It's on, right? Okay. I didn't know I'd just read all that with no mic on.
Can you read it again?
Yeah, I don't know what it says. Mr. Wilford. And that was sent out to all the board members. If you missed it, I can resend it to you. And then the Gifted Advisory Council chair sent me annual report. She wanted to recognize the NCAGT 2023 Outstanding Teacher of the Gifted, which was Reagan Mock from Myrtle Grove Middle. The 2024 Outstanding Teacher of the Gifted finalist was Angela Jeffrey. Promising district recognition. New Hanover County Schools AIG program utilizes a wide variety of strong practices aligned with multiple critical actions from the NCDPI Equity and Excellence Critical Action Briefs. And there is an AIG mentorship program that has been developed by a student from Hoggard, and he is developing a student-led mentorship program for AIG students 4th through 7th grade. It's very exciting. I've had conversations with this kiddo, and he's a phenomenal student with just really big ideas. And he is working on a pilot program over at Wrightsboro Elementary that's in the works. We have done site visits to Pine Valley in November and Holly Shelter just last month to look at how programs are running, seeing strong engagement during AIG pullout time in the elementary schools, and seeing at Holly Shelter that there's cluster grouping success between AIG students and nurturing those getting nurtured as AIG possible students. They are making recommendations to the Board of Ed to maintain gifted specialists at all elementary and middle schools, to increase funding to support a gifted specialist at each high school, and one to serve the non-traditional high schools, and to investigate transportation needs for high school specialty programs. And I can send the rest of that report to the board, but the recommendations were what I felt was the strongest, and what they're doing. I think they're doing amazing work in the Gifted Advisory Council, as is the Advisory Council for Exceptional Students. So that is my
Any questions?
Yeah, could we have Ms. Mason send those to Crystal, and we can post them in Assembly as an attachment?
Absolutely.
We'll do it. And saving the best, any other questions? No? If saving the best for last, Ms. Walker?
Wait a minute.
Hold
up.
Save the what for what?
Ms. Walker?
The best for the best.
So you can hear me.
Turn that on now.
We are tired.
No. Of course, I'm the new liaison for Head Start, so I will just give you the brief. You all have it. It's an attachment as well, but I'll just read a couple things. The pre-K kickoff for the school 24-25 flyer is up here. I'm going to read some of the highlights. Senator Lee is visiting Johnson Pre-K Head Start Center March 12th at 9. I think we've all been invited to that. Head Start Policy Council meeting, which y'all don't need to know about that. That's what I'm going to be going to. It's a Zoom on March 27th. What's new is Johnson Pre-K and Head Start hosted STEM Night / Block Fest on January 18th from 4 to 6. They had a total of 112 participants, including 12 father figures. During this event, various stations were set up around the school that included different types of blocks so families could engage in play and building with their children. A robotic station, a slim station, a build a bridge activity, a book station, prizes were given out. Smart Start was there to answer any questions that families had, as well as pizza dinner was served. Pre-K to kindergarten transition night was March 7th from 5 to 6, showcasing highlights from pre-K learning environments as well as expectations of students and families in elementary school. So that is pretty much highlights and any announcements. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, it's on there and y'all can read it.
Any questions? Thank you, Ms. Walker. I believe the last item of business is to adjourn. So do I hear a motion? And a second? I'll second it. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, board members. That passes 5 to 1. I know.